Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Amina and Sarah Saeed were young teenagers in 2007. At 18 and 17 years old, both had bright futures ahead of them. They attended Louisville High School, just 35 minutes outside of Dallas, Texas. Both girls had big dreams of becoming doctors and pushed themselves academically in the hopes of attending good colleges. In 2007, Amina secured numerous scholarships to Texas A&M University, one of the most coveted schools in the state, and both she and her sister had begun dating local boys around the same age. At the time, they also had jobs at the neighborhood grocery store, Keur, where they worked as cashiers. Amina enjoyed clubs and extracurricular activities. Once she was able to secure a car, she drove herself to her weekly Taekwondo classes. Sarah loved learning and excelling in school. But as these young girls' social lives were flourishing, there was a storm brewing at home, one that very few were fully aware of. The two sisters had a complicated family life, one that was dominated by their father, Egyptian-born Yasser Abdel Saeed. Yasser was not a fan of the girls dating, firmly believing they needed to wait to date someone who shared their Muslim faith. He kept a close eye on both. Often, he would follow them to work and watch their interactions with customers from the parking lot, watch them at school and at home. Using video surveillance at home, he would film them around the house, in the backyard, and in their bedrooms. In the following audio, Yasser was parked outside the grocery store where the girls worked, alongside Amina and his son Islam. They were watching Sarah as she worked the night shift. You can hear Yasser say she is smiling at one of the customers, saying she's in trouble. Islam tells him to ground her.
She smiled to the customers.
Bubba, she has to. Part of her job.
She's in trouble.
Ground her.
She opened conversation too. She's really in trouble.
She's not leaving the house until she's 40.
Then, on New Year's Day, 2008, the local city of Irving's police department received a harrowing 911 call from someone who was screaming and crying for help, saying, "I'm dying." This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 231. Amina and Sarah Saeed's story begins far before New Year's Day 2008. And to gain the full context of their complicated and culturally dynamic upbringing, we have to go all the way back to 1986. At the time, the girl's mother, Patricia Owens, was just 14 years old. Patricia grew up in Dallas, Texas. Living in a low-income family, she shared a 2-bedroom apartment with her 3 siblings and her parents. A convenience store next to the apartment complex was where she would often hang out, and eventually she met Yassine Saeed. Patricia and Yassine struck up a relationship and began dating. He was much older than her, but they dated for 5 to 6 months. Just as the couple was about to get engaged, they called it off. And that's where Yassine's older brother, Yasser, stepped in. Yasser was 28 years old. Patricia was still just 14. They began dating, and within 3 weeks announced that they were getting married. Patricia's parents signed the legal documents providing consent. It was a union that they hoped would bring her financial stability and an opportunity for a better life. On February 7th, 1987, the two married. Patricia was 15, Yasser, 29. Patricia gave birth to 3 children in rapid succession when she was 16, 17, and 18. The firstborn was their son Islam, then Amina, and then Sarah. While Patricia took care of all 3 kids, she also worked primarily as the family's breadwinner at the local dollar store. Yasser would occasionally pull shifts as a taxi driver and work at the convenience store where they had met, but not very often. Years later, as the kids were getting older, both Amina and Sarah confided in their mom and told her that their father had been sexually abusing them. They were only 10 and 9 years old at the time. And so in October 1998, Patricia drove the girls down to the local police station to file a report. She promptly moved them out of the house and away from Yasser, seeking shelter in a nearby suburb of Dallas, where her sister Connie lived. Yasser and his brother Yassain both repeatedly called Patricia's mother, looking for her and the children. They threatened to find them and force them to come home. Yasser was charged with retaliation, and a protective order was requested by Patricia on behalf of the girls. But in a stunning turn of events, Patricia eventually dropped the charges, and she and the kids returned to live with Yasser. The girls ended up recanting their accusations. Patricia would later say she was scared of Yasser.
After the charges and the protective order and the retaliation, why did you go back?
Actually, I was scared not to go back.
You were scared not to go back?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What were you scared about? What did you think was going to happen to you?
Yes, it was abusive.
Okay. Were you scared of getting hurt?
Yes, ma'am.
This would be just one of many times that Patricia would leave Yasser and then return. By 2007, the family was living in Bedford, Texas, approximately 20 miles outside Dallas. The girls were now teenagers. Amina quickly struck up a romantic friendship with a boy who was also taking Taekwondo classes, Joseph Moreno. Although later in court, Patricia would describe Amina's relationship with Joseph as just a friendship, he would say that they were much more than friends, and had even discussed the idea of marriage. But shortly after Amina's relationship began flourishing, the family was abruptly uprooted mid-school year and moved another 30 minutes away to the small town of Louisville. It's been suggested that the family moved after Yasser discovered this friendship between Amina and Joseph. But Patricia insisted they moved in order to be closer to Yasser's job as a part-time taxi driver. Patricia became a manager at the local Keur store, and the girls soon found jobs there too. It was here where they met 2 boys. Sarah met Eric, another employee and fellow classmate at Louisville High School, and Amina met Edgar, a customer and local community college student.
Did the girls begin dating these boys?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you aware of it?
Yes, I was.
Did they tell you?
Yes, sir.
As far as you knew, was Yasser Saeed aware of it?
No.
Would he have disapproved?
Yes.
Okay. Did you keep it from your husband?
Yes, I did.
But their best efforts to hide the new relationships would only anger their father, who resorted to going through the girls' phone records. Yasser would call each number he saw and write down if it was a boy or a girl who answered the phone. As December 2007 approached, Sarah told Patricia that the girls were planning to run away, this time for good, They could no longer deal with their controlling father. Sarah said Yasser had discovered both of their relationships and had threatened Amina with a gun. Patricia didn't want to confront Yasser about the allegations, reportedly scared that he would retaliate against her. So, alongside Amina and Sarah, she hatched a plan to escape altogether, excluding their son, Islam. Both of the girls' boyfriends volunteered to come with them.
What was the plan to run away? And by that, what did you put in place to run away?
I told the girls to put clothes in a trash bag.
Okay, you got to speak up on this. This is important. You told the girls to put clothes in the trash bag.
Yes, so when we could, we just picked out the bags and throw them in the car and leave.
Okay, and you thought this would be less suspicious to the defendant. Why?
Because we would donate clothes to the needy.
Okay. So you told the girls to put the clothes in the trash bags because it would be less suspicious because he would think you're donating clothes.
Yes.
During this time, Patricia wasn't really allowed to take the girls with her on errands or anywhere in town without either Yasser or Islam going with them. So they patiently waited for several days for Yasser to finally go to work. This was the best time for them to escape. Finally, on Christmas Day, they were able to break free alongside the girls' two boyfriends, Eric and Edgar. Eric would later be called to testify in court.
Who was driving? Do you recall?
Edgar.
Did you leave in Edgar's car?
Yes.
Was it Edgar's truck?
I think it was his or his parents.
Okay. Possibly his dad's?
Possibly.
Where did you go?
First we went to Kansas, tried out a group, figured things out, and then we went to Oklahoma.
Before they left, Patricia took $4,000 from a safe in the house and told her oldest son that she and the girls were headed to the local gas station to grab a drink. They then headed straight to Kansas, taking the SIM cards out of all of their phones and destroying them. Patricia had family up in Kansas, but the living arrangements didn't work out, and so they decided to head to Oklahoma instead. She got a burner phone so they couldn't be traced, but periodically they all called their old phone numbers to check voicemails. Both Yasser and Yassine had been calling the girls, begging them to come home, promising that Yasser would move out of the house and leave them all alone. Patricia, the two girls, and their boyfriends decided to rent an apartment in Oklahoma in the hopes of starting fresh. They planned to re-enlist in school, get jobs, and get married. Yasser filed a missing persons report with the local police. A local detective from the Louisville Police Department managed to get a hold of Patricia. She gave them their location and confirmed they were all safe. But days later, on December 30th, 2007, Patricia had a change of heart. In court, she would later testify that both she and Amina were afraid that if Amina were to miss any more time in school, it would jeopardize her ability to attend A&M in the fall. According to Patricia, the girls all agreed to return to the Louisville home, apprehensively, and live with Yasser until Amina graduated. But the stories of their return would vary over exactly what the girls were promised. They were only in the rented Oklahoma apartment for 2 days before returning home on December 31st. When they arrived back in the area, Amina went with her boyfriend to a New Year's Eve party, while Patricia and Sarah met with Yasser and Islam at a local Denny's. The evening was full of promises and hopes of a fresh start, at least from Patricia's perspective. She had left Yasser many times before, always returning, but this time felt different. Perhaps everything was finally going to change this time. She called Amina to come home to join the rest of the family the next day, on January 1st, 2008. It took some convincing, but when she arrived, Yasser was emotional and regretful for the things that had transpired. He said he wanted to have a heart-to-heart with them, alone. Yasser told Patricia that he was going to take the girls out for dinner to talk about everything. Patricia asked to tag along, but was told no. At 6:30 p.m., the girls got in the taxi that their father used for work. And that would be the last time they would ever be seen alive. It took a long time for the Irving Police Department to locate the bodies of Amina and Sarah Saeed. The dispatcher on the other end of Sarah's frantic 911 call was confused and shocked. Officer Kevin Hubbard had taken the shift as overtime hours, the last overtime shift in the dispatch department he would ever accept. He had struggled to hear Sarah's voice in the call, only taking away her desperate plea of, "I'm dying." Since Sarah couldn't say the location where she was, it led police officers to the main street in Las Colinas, one filled with numerous hotels, high-rises, restaurants, and a walkable canal that stretched the entirety of a small lake below the street level. Trying to figure out where the call had originated from was like finding a needle in a haystack. And that's exactly what Officer Richard Bracey was tasked with doing that night. Officer Bracey began driving up and down the main stretch of road, looking for anyone in distress. He even resorted to turning his sirens on in the hopes that if the person was above him in a high-rise, they could see him. But when the dispatchers, who were still connected to Sarah's 911 call, couldn't hear the sirens on their end of the line, they knew they weren't close. Meanwhile, the Louisville Police Department arrived at the Saeed family home, the address linked to Sarah's phone. They asked Patricia if everything was okay. They told her they had received a 911 call. In addition to Sarah saying she was dying, she had also said that she and her sister had been shot by their father. Patricia told them that Yasser and the girls had gone out for dinner, but she hadn't heard from them since. When asked if Yasser kept any weapons on him, she said yes. Just 14 miles away, Yasser's taxi was found at the service entrance to the Omni Mandalay Hotel by another taxi driver who described the scene.
It doesn't appear that there's a driver, but there are two people inside the cab, one in the passenger seat and one in the rear of the vehicle. One of the people in the passenger seat looks like she's hunched over and she has blood coming from her ear. It doesn't look like they're alive to me.
I understand that. We've got our officers en route.
Officer Bracey arrived there at around 8:45 p.m.
At this point, Officer Bracey, do you open up the doors?
I do.
Okay, and you're doing so because?
Check for signs of life, and there was not.
All right. Has anyone arrived with you at this time?
At this time, I believe it was just myself. The fire department hadn't quite made it on scene yet.
Later at trial, Officer Bracey would get emotional on the stand.
And once you find the girls and you check for any signs of life, what do you do next?
Tell the dispatcher that I have two deceased people at the scene and that I need more units to help cordon off a perimeter.
He described how he and his fellow officers closed the surrounding area in case the suspect, who at the time was assumed to be Yasser Saeed, or other victims were nearby.
The SWAT team comes out and coordinates a foot search and searches all the parking garages, buildings, balconies, down by the Las Colinas Canal, Lake Caroline's the big lake around there.
He testified that Louisville police told them that the girls were last seen going to eat with their father and that they had left in a taxi. He was given a description of Yasser and noted that there were no keys in the vehicle, the door was unlocked, and there was no sign of a weapon anywhere. Amina had been shot twice and died almost instantly. Sarah had been shot 9 times and had still been able to call 911 before passing away. Despite 11 shots being fired and Yasser allegedly fleeing, there were no witnesses who had seen what had happened. And so Yasser Saeed slipped away into the night, undetected. Officer Stephen Hazard was a veteran of the crime scene unit for the Irving Police Department. On January 1st, 2008, Officer Hazard arrived on the scene and began taking pictures of the outside of the taxi.
I'm able to see what I call Amani, victim number 1 in the front right seat of the cab. I can see that she's been shot. I can see blood. I can see a shell casing on her shoulder. There's some items at her feet. In the back, there's Sarah that's in the back right area of the car, leaned into the door. She's been shot several times. I can see a phone by her right leg on the seat, and a shell casing on the floor, and what appears to be bullet holes in the seat beside her.
He said they had to wait for a warrant to be cleared in order to search the inside. In the meantime, he spent several hours searching the nearby areas for evidence. Once the warrant was cleared, he collected multiple shell casings from inside. He found passports for both Patricia and Sarah, too. Officer Hazard attempted to recover the security camera footage from the Omni Hotel, but the video proved useless to the investigation. He also decided not to swab for fingerprints, figuring Sarah was able to identify the shooter as her own father on the 911 call. Officer Hazard testified that it was his belief that the girls were not shot at the Omni Hotel, but somewhere nearby, and that Sarah had been shot at very close range. The deaths sent shockwaves throughout the community. Some who knew the girls through school and work were left absolutely horrified, while others were shocked that what the girls had warned them of earlier had actually happened. Amina and Sarah were laid to rest in a Muslim cemetery next to each other. As more information began to come out about the circumstances of their deaths, there was one looming question. Where was Yasser Saeed? That question would lead police on a 12-year manhunt that would see Yasser placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list in 2014. Rumors swirled and people began to speculate why Yasser, if he did commit the crime, would have done it. When Patricia Owens revealed that Yasser disapproved of the girls dating American boys and feared that they were becoming too Western, many began to speculate that it had been part of an honor killing. Yasser's photo was blasted across the news, while rumors swirled that he had fled back to his home country of Egypt, or that he was in New York City, blending in with thousands of other taxi drivers. Yasser's extended family stayed tight-lipped and gave no indication that they knew where he was hiding. Patricia would later testify that after the girls' deaths, she would never hear from Yasser again. Both she and their son Islam moved in with Yasser's relatives until eventually Islam was sent off to Egypt for several years, and then ceased any contact with his mother. In an interview with Fox News, Patricia said that during their stay with her in-laws, Yasser's family members would make passing remarks about the girls' deaths.
Just hearing them talk and being around them the months that I was, I picked up on things. One of his brothers told me that I was really lucky that he left their bodies for me to find, for me to put my girls to rest. If it was him, nobody would find his girls.
Who said this?
Yusri. Yusri told me this, and he has 5 girls.
The years came and went. Between 2014 and 2015, Patricia gave several media interviews. In this one, also with Fox News, she said the girls were being pressured into arranged marriages by their controlling father before their deaths.
Was he going to arrange the marriage?
He would find the guy and they could say yes or no, but it wasn't something we sat down and we discussed, because he thought that he was in control of everything.
Patricia also alleged in the same interview that the girls said they didn't want to marry men in Egypt. According to her, Yasser complied with the girls' requests, but said their future spouses needed to be Muslim. In the days leading up to their deaths, and shortly before they would all attempt to leave Yasser, Patricia said her husband started to get more and more agitated. He would restrict where the girls could go with her, often requesting that he accompany them, or that Islam would supervise. Although parts of Patricia's story would change over the years, one thing remained the same. Patricia said she was scared of Yasser, and she knew the girls felt the same. In 2014, a documentary crew released the film The Price of Honor, interviewing Patricia and her family. Members of Yasser's family were asked to participate too, but declined. The documentary also featured Joseph Moreno, the young man who had struck up a relationship with Amina years prior in their Taekwondo class. Both he and his mother, Ruth, participated in the film, telling the audience that the two kids were in love and that Amina was deeply fearful of her father and the abusive household he dominated.
The instructor had me doing some kind of an exercise, and she walked in, and I was I messed up whatever I was doing because there was a big mirror in the front of the room, so you could see every angle of the room every time. And as soon as somebody walked in, you could see it. And then she walked in. I think I was doing push-ups or something, and then I fell. Oh man, who is that girl? And I was immediately attracted to her, but the first thing I thought was man, no, a girl that beautiful, of course she has a boyfriend, and don't even. I didn't think there was anything that was ever going to come of it.
Their Taekwondo instructor was also in the documentary and said the pair was inseparable. Joseph, whom Amina nicknamed Jojo, described her as one of a kind.
I didn't really understand fully at the time until the relationship progressed. And as it progressed, she would tell me more and more just horror stories about him, basically.
Amina had confided in Joseph that her father had plans to take her and Sarah to Egypt to find a husband. After hearing about the horror stories from Amina's home life, Joseph said that the two hatched a plan to run away to Las Vegas and get married. He said throughout the relationship, Amina was very scared to communicate with him on the phone, out of fear that her father would find out. At one point, Amina even advised Joseph not to talk while they were in her car, because Yasser had bugged the vehicle with a listening device. This was later confirmed by Patricia. Joseph and his mother alleged that Yasser found out about the two's relationship from a letter Amina had written to him. It was shortly after that the Saids packed up and moved abruptly to Louisville, Texas, a move that Patricia said was solely for Yasser's job. Amina and Joseph stayed in touch with each other. According to Ruth, they were aware of 2 trips that Amina took with her father to Egypt, potentially to set up an arranged marriage. Joseph said that when the girls ran away on Christmas Day, the new burner phones they had were his only form of contact with Amina. He said he begged and pleaded with her not to return to Yasser. When he got the news of her death, he was heartbroken. It was August 2020, and while the country was in the midst of the COVID pandemic, the FBI was still searching for Yasser Said. It had been several years since the last sighting was called in, But they weren't about to give up hope, checking on the case file every now and then to make sure progress was being made. The FBI had kept close eyes on all of Yasser's family in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, monitoring the homes of each family member and where they moved. They also monitored the financial records of Yassin Saeed, Yasser's brother, as well as Yasser and Patricia's oldest son, Islam. Most of the Saeed family remained in a close circle of houses in the area, but an agent assigned to the case, Agent Daniel Jimenez, noticed in 2020 that Yassin's 2 daughters owned a home far away from the rest of the family in Justin, Texas. Justin is a very rural area, home to about 4,400 people. According to the FBI records, although the house was under Yassin's daughters' names, investigators knew they lived in other houses over 40 minutes away. And so this became an area of major interest for the investigators.
We decided to conduct another technique in the surveillance realm is pull trash from public space that derived from the home, and we use the corresponding trash garbage collection company to assist us in collecting trash on the day that trash was put out. We took the trash to the FBI space and examined it and realized it was yard debris. And the purposes of that is to attempt to identify who may be living in that residence. But at the time we pulled the trash, we were doing spot check surveillance.
What is a spot check surveillance?
So basically, checking on the home periodically, but not maintaining 24-hour surveillance.
But after the trash pickup ended with just yard waste, he said they then shifted their strategy to 24-hour surveillance, placing a concealed pole camera that faced the front of the home. Both Yassin and Islam Saeed were seen entering and leaving the residence multiple times, carrying groceries or items from Home Depot, and then leaving with trash. But they never appeared to spend the night there, always leaving before the evenings. Still, agents could detect movement inside.
So there is a large window at the front of the house, and during the hours of darkness, there was a light inside the house. And the window from the inside had blinds where they remained closed. However, in the evening hours, the light would come on and off. And at times, multiple times, namely on August 19th, there was a shadow that appeared to be a human being walking from one side of the window into the next, giving us an indication that someone was inside the house.
On one occasion, the agents witnessed Islam and Yassin taking more trash from the home and dumping it at a nearby restaurant. The agents stepped in and gathered it, sending it to their offices for analysis. They also requested a search warrant for the Justin home. They believed Yasser was living inside the home and were waiting for the perfect time to finally arrest him. This was not the first time that the FBI had come close to capturing Yasser. In 2017, 3 years prior, a maintenance worker at an apartment complex in Bedford, Texas, the city where the Saeed family had originally lived in 2007, spotted Yasser in one of the units. At the time, the apartment had been leased out to Islam Saeed. According to the Dallas Morning News, quote, the worker told authorities he went to the unit to fix a water leak and used his key to unlock the door when no one answered, but the deadbolt was locked. Eventually, a middle-aged man let him in to make the repairs. The worker reported the incident to his manager, who knew about the accusations against Islam's father. The worker told the manager that the man who let him into the apartment was the same man shown in the FBI's most wanted poster for Yasser Saeed. The two then reported the incident to the FBI. An FBI agent arrived later that evening and interviewed Islam. When asked if they could search his apartment unit, he refused. Islam reportedly then phoned his uncle Yassin and told him, "We have a big problem." When a search warrant was eventually obtained for the apartment, no one was inside. It appeared that Yasser had jumped from the balcony to escape, dropping his glasses in a nearby bush. DNA found inside was believed to be Yasser's. So in 2020, when FBI agents were monitoring the Justin, Texas home where they believed Yasser to be hiding, they knew they needed to be discreet. On August 26, 2020, they moved in to execute their warrant on the home.
And what if anything, happened when you entered the Justin home?
Upon the SWAT team's notice and knock and announce at the residence, the defendant came out and surrendered and lay prone on the ground and was handcuffed and taken into custody safely without incident.
In the back of the home, they discovered makeshift living quarters.
The garage door was converted from a typical garage door to French doors. Also, inside the garage structure, there was a about 3/4 of the way wall space built out to encompass a room inside the garage through use of plywood. Inside that wall space, small room within the garage, was a cot and a rug. Also, there was a newly laid out cement decking in the back, lattice work in the back patio, and some tile work in the back room of the house.
In addition to arresting Yasser, they also arrested Islam and Yassin for concealing him. Although the arrests would take place in 2020, the family and friends of Amina and Sarah Saeed would still have to wait another 2 years to see their day in court. On August 4th, 2022, the trial for Yasser Saeed began. The opening statements were given by prosecutor Lauren Black, who painted a dark picture of the girls' lives.
This is a case about a man obsessed with possession and control. He controlled his 2 daughters, Amina Saeed and Sarah Saeed. He controlled what they did, who they talked to, who they could be friends with, and who they could date. And he controlled everything in his household. You'll hear that he also controlled his wife.
She argued that as the girls got older and discovered their independence, Yasser was losing control. He had organized the home in such a way so that the girls were isolated and dependent on him.
That leading up to the murders of Amina Saeed and Sarah Saeed, the defendant's behavior got extremely dangerous. The girls became very scared for their lives. Their mother, Patricia, who had left the defendant numerous times in the past because of his behavior, was so scared that they all 3 decided, we need to escape. So they made a plan.
She told the jury how the girls' boyfriends agreed to go with them.
They convinced their boyfriends to go with them. Imagine that. 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 19-year-old, and their mother, Patricia Owens, all flee from the defendant. They planned their escape.
She said prior to them leaving, things had gotten so bad at the Saeed house.
What do I mean by so bad? You'll hear that leading up to the murders, the reason for them leaving was that the defendant put a gun to Amina's head, threatened to kill her. That's what made them leave.
She told the jury how Patricia and the girls were eventually persuaded to come back home, despite everything that had happened.
With that same control and that same manipulation that the defendant has done for years has worked. And he gets them to come home. And they come home. And now he's a changed man. Now he's okay with everything. He's going to give them some independence. He's going to let them date their boyfriends. He's going to let them go to college. He's going to let them live their own lives. So he tells the mother, everything's okay. Come home. Everything's okay.
But then, she said after being lured to dinner, their father broke their trust and shot them dead. The defense offered a very different theory. Attorney Joseph Patton argued that there was no evidence linking Yasser to the murders. Instead, he said the case was focused solely on race and religion, which unfairly targeted Yasser for being Muslim.
To put this in some perspective, Sarah would have been 11 and Amina would have been 12 on September 11th, 2001. That means that these two young girls spent their entire teenage years and most of their formative years in a post-9/11 world. And Yasser was trying to raise two teenage girls in America in a world where our government had daily discourse filled with anti-Muslim rhetoric, Islamophobia. You know, when these girls should have been worried about their driver's license, they're seeing pictures of torture in Guantanamo Bay. Yasser is seeing on the news every night what our country did to Muslim suspects. The lengths that they would go to justify torture. Now, it was wrong in 2001 and the years after that for our government to generalize and criminalize an entire culture to fit their objectives and to fit their narratives. And it's wrong today in this trial for the government to generalize an entire culture, to criminalize an entire culture to fit their narrative and to fit their objective. The state wants to convict Yasser for being a Muslim in 2008 because the evidence will show that the evidence will not support convictions for capital murder today. It would not have supported it in 2008, and it will not support it in this trial.
Patton didn't deny that the jury would hear incriminating things, like the girls being found in Yasser's taxi, the 911 call, and the fact that Yasser went on the run for 12 years. But, he said, there were no witnesses to the crime. He also argued that the prosecution's witness list was heavily skewed because they were planning on calling members of Patricia's family, but not the Saeed family. Patton pointed out the inconsistencies in Patricia's retelling of the story. In previous interviews, she had been hesitant to say if Yasser had been abusive to just her or the children as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely don't know where to begin with Patricia. I think if Patricia was allowed to testify for 2 full days, that you have 2 different people showing up on that witness stand. She cannot tell the same story twice and has all the motive in the world to testify against Yasser. Now, I believe the evidence will show that she is one bad statement away from becoming a suspect in this case. So she has the motive to make this all about Yasser.
He then turned his attention to the girls' 2 boyfriends, calling them the last 2 people to see the girls alive. Patton said the investigation was targeted against Yasser the whole time, letting the real murderer slip away.
That they chased every single brown man with a mustache in a taxi, at a Quickie Mart, or at a coffee shop, from here to Georgia, to the Carolinas, up to Pennsylvania, over to New York, to the bridge that connects New York to Canada, all the way down to San Diego, back up to Portland, or not Portland, Oregon, excuse me. And after all that, they find him in the backyard, in Dallas, in the DFW.
Patton also argued that mental and auditory hallucinations are common of someone who has been shot many times, suggesting that Sarah was not in her right mind during the 911 call, where she identified her father as the killer.
What was once considered a dying declaration is maybe not as sound and secure in the scientific field as it once was. I mean, this is a concept that was based in old folklore that made its way into American jurisprudence.
Patricia's sister, Connie Maggio, testified that on numerous occasions, Patricia would leave Yasser because of his controlling and abusive behavior, but she would always return. Connie got a call on December 23, 2007, from Patricia, notifying her that she and the girls were planning to leave. And so when they all left 2 days later, she knew that the girls were safe and were finally escaping. She said she received calls from Yasser and Islam, as well as from the Louisville Police Department, asking where they were. She told them she didn't know anything. Connie testified that she was fearful for their safety, and she knew Patricia was scared of Yasser. She said she was happy that finally they would be free. She described then receiving a frantic phone call from Amina on January 1st, 2008, the day of the murders, and immediately she knew something was wrong. The girls had abruptly returned to Texas, and she said it appeared that the decision to return to Yasser had actually blindsided Amina and Sarah.
And what is Amina's demeanor in that moment? How was she acting?
Frantic.
Was she talking fast?
Yes, she was.
Was she emotional?
Yes, she was.
What did Amina tell you?
She asked me if I knew that her mom went back to her dad.
And what'd you say?
I asked her to repeat because she was so frantic I couldn't understand what she said. So I asked her to repeat, and I said, no, I didn't know.
Did she say anything else?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
She said that her mom was wanting her to come back home. She didn't want to go back home. She'd rather be dead than to ever go back there. And she asked me what she should do.
She asked you what she should do?
Yes.
And what did you tell her, Connie?
I told her to go to the Louisville Police Department, get a restraining order, and get it as far away as you can.
She also told the court that when the girls pressed charges against their father back in 1998 for sexual abuse, Connie received a letter from Amina stating that she did not want to recant the allegations and was being forced to. Connie hid the letter in her closet because at the time, when Patricia left Yasser in 1998 after the allegations, they were all staying with her. The letter then went missing. When pressed by the defense, Connie admitted that her sister Patricia was at times a good liar. A friend of Amina's from school, Caitlin Rogers, also took the stand. They had met in science class in 2003 in the 8th grade. She said although they were best friends, they never got to hang out after school together because it was something Amina wasn't allowed to do. She said Amina was always picked up by her father immediately after school ended.
And then as best friends, did you guys hang out outside of school?
No.
Ever?
No.
Okay. But you would hang out with other girlfriends outside of school?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Did you and Amina go to the mall together?
No.
Did you go get your nails done?
No.
Did you do anything outside of school?
No.
Was Amina allowed to do anything outside of school?
No.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
If you know.
No.
The girls were friends until the fall of 2005, when Amina suddenly disappeared. The family had abruptly moved. She would never see her in person again. The last communication she received from Amina was on Christmas Day in 2007. It was an email that sounded hopeful for the future. The girls' former history teacher at Louisville High School, Renee Hopkins, testified that Sarah and Amina shared the hardships of their home life with her when she questioned why their grades were slipping.
Did you ever see the parents?
One time I met with their mother.
Okay. Was that like a regular parent-teacher conference or?
It was over grades, and they decided that their mother needed to come in and visit with me.
Okay, so they wanted their mom to come in?
Yeah.
Okay, and why was that?
The work that they were producing wasn't as quality as it had been, and so the grades started to fall, and they thought they deserved the grades that they were getting prior to that time.
Okay. And
We
so
resolved that issue.
And the mom came in?
Yes.
All right. Did you ever see the father, Mr. Yasser Saeed?
No.
Okay. Were you aware that they had a brother named Islam?
Yes.
All right. Did they discuss anything in the home life about Islam to you?
Yes.
Okay. How would they describe his behavior towards them?
Domineering.
Okay. And how would they describe Yasser Saeed generally towards them?
Domineering.
An email from Amina to Renee was also submitted into evidence, sent on December 21st, 2007. "We don't want police involved until we are totally ready," Amina wrote. "I am so scared right now. It's crazy. Okay, well, as you know, we're not allowed to date, and my dad is arranging my marriage. My dad said I cannot put it off anymore, and I have to get married this year." Amina wrote that after her father discovered boys' numbers in their phone, he threatened to hurt Sarah very badly if he was deprived of information. "When we were younger, he used to do things, and he started hinting at them again," she wrote. "He simply made our life a nightmare." She shared plans that the two were wanting to run away before the Christmas holiday break ended. "I know he will search until he finds us, and he will, without any drama or any doubt, kill us," the email said. Amina pleaded with Renee to keep the information confidential. "We will get the law involved, but please keep this between us. We need our chance to get settled because when he goes to jail, his brothers will step in."
Did you hear from Amina or Sarah after this?
No.
When did you come to find out about their murders?
On the news.
On the news. Okay. And you made sure that Irving PD or someone from the school had this email. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And in the body of this email, were these things that Sarah and Amina had talked to you before?
Yes.
Okay. So when they wrote you this, I'm assuming that she felt comfortable to write you this because you already knew.
Yes.
The defense grilled Renee over her handling of the situation. She defended the steps she took by explaining that the district policy was to hand over everything to the counseling department, which she had done. Sarah's boyfriend, Eric, was next to take the stand. He told the jury that at age 17, he met Amina and Sarah at Keur, where he worked as a grocery bagger. The girls were cashiers. He also attended the same high school. He said they kept their relationship quiet and couldn't let anybody know.
What do you mean by you couldn't let anybody know?
They told me that their father was not cool with them dating Americans. And I was like, okay. So we kept it a secret.
Sarah gave him ominous reasons as to why they couldn't have a normal relationship.
Was it normal dating life? Were you able to take her out to get ice cream?
No.
Go to the movies?
No.
Why was that?
She didn't want her dad to find out. She stressed it a lot that if he did, something bad would happen to me or something bad would happen to her.
Okay. So how would you guys hang out? When did you guys hang out?
School bus to school in the mornings, between class periods, and 10 minutes before somebody picked her up after school. We communicated through cell phones, but we didn't really talk that much in person.
Eric described Sarah as a tomboy princess with a kind heart. She told him to beware of her father, Yasser. On one occasion, Yasser walked into the store and Eric recognized him, but the two had never met face to face until the trial. Eric said both he and Sarah made promises to each other and dreamed of a life together, going to college together, getting married, and having children. He said when the girls were ready to run away in December 2007, Amina hatched the plan. Eric wanted to join them because he couldn't see a life without Sarah. Amina's boyfriend Edgar also volunteered to join. Eric met him for the first time on the day of the escape. They all left on Christmas Day in Edgar's truck. Eric said the plan was to settle down in Oklahoma. They had pooled their money together and had rented an apartment where all five intended to live, get jobs, and get back in school.
Eric, do you know the reason why you all left?
Yes.
What was that?
Amina gathered all of Edgar and Sarah and I together and said that her dad pulled a gun on her and she was afraid that he was going to kill her.
And that frightened her enough for you all to leave?
That scared me too.
Eric said the move to return home was not a group decision. He alleged that Sarah wanted to try to fix things, and Patricia was the one who convinced them all to go back to Texas. All Eric could hope for was the best. He said when they arrived back to Texas, Eric returned to his house, and Sarah went back to hers. They tried to remain in contact with each other. Upon their return, Sarah got a new SIM card for her phone, and Eric was able to text her back and forth, with her dad knowing, and he thought everything was going to be safe. But he said when Amina returned home, everything changed. Communication went silent. Eric found out what happened to the girls when he saw the cop cars at Sarah's house, from where he was staying at his cousin's house down the block. Both he and Edgar went to the Irving Police Station that night. Despite a police report that said Edgar and Eric had been following the girls in the taxi that night, Eric insisted that was false. Edgar Ruiz, Amina's boyfriend, then took the stand. He said his parents used to own a home close to the Kroger that the two girls worked at. He saw Amina and wanted to date her. Similar to Eric's story, he said Amina confided in him that the girls were under the control of their father, and they were not allowed to date American boys. The only way he was allowed to see Amina was after she signed up for a tennis class, and they used that time to hang out. Edgar also said the initial plan to flee on Christmas Day 2007 was Amina's idea. Edgar told his parents he wanted to run away with her, but they weren't on board with the idea. They eventually came around, however, and his father let him borrow his truck. Edgar testified that during their escape, it was his name on the apartment lease in Oklahoma, but they only stayed for a few days. Edgar had to return to Dallas for a New Year's Eve party with his family. His parents picked him up and agreed to leave the truck for Amina and her family. Edgar said he had wanted Amina to join him for the family party, but Patricia refused, citing concerns for Amina's safety if she was back in the Dallas area. Upon Edgar's return home, he received a startling text message from Amina. The whole group had changed their minds and were on their way home too. He said he thought it was strange. According to Edgar, the girls were returning home to help their mom run errands, including visiting their grandmother's grave, not to return to live with Yasser. On New Year's Eve, Patricia, Eric, Amina, and Sarah all arrived at Edgar's house to return his father's truck. Edgar was still under the assumption that they were back just to run errands and not to see Yasser. Amina decided to stay with Edgar and attend the New Year's Eve party with him. Later, they received a concerning text message from Sarah, telling them that both she and Patricia ended up going home to Yasser. On January 1st, Amina was convinced to come home by Patricia, who came to get her. Patricia pleaded with Amina on the front porch of Edgar's house, saying, "We're running out of time." As Amina left with Patricia, she told Edgar that he had failed her and that this would be the last time he would ever see her again. Edgar said the last statement wasn't intended to be a breakup. She knew she was going to die, he testified. Edgar then told the jury that after Amina left, he went with his father to bail a relative out of jail from the previous night's rowdy New Year's Eve party. He recalled seeing Yasser drive past the police station with Sarah and Amina. Edgar and his father followed the taxi for a short time, but then stopped and went home. Hours later, he would get the devastating news about the girls' deaths. The defense team tried to get the 911 call from Sarah thrown out, citing that no one could prove her mental or physical state at the time of the call, alleging that she could have hallucinated her father shooting her, but their motion was denied. They called only one witness to the stand, Yasser Saeed. With the help of a translator, he shared his testimony for over an hour. The man who was once described by his daughters as controlling and frightening now looked tired and frail. Despite having moved to the United States in 1983, he now appeared to only speak in Arabic for the duration of the testimony. The defense took him right to January 1st, 2008.
Let's start with that afternoon when Amina comes home.
نرجع للمساء 2008 لما رجعت أمينة على البيت.
قابلتهم عادي يعني مفيش مشكلة. كنت عايز أحل المشكلة معهم.
I met them normally, like always, and I wanted to solve the problem.
Going forward, you'll hear the prosecutor ask him questions and then the translator responding for him. I'm cutting out the in-between in the interest of time.
And by the problem, you mean you were upset that they had run away with these boys and who specifically they were dating at that time.
Yes, I was upset because in my culture, it's something to get upset about.
But you did not kill your daughter, did you?
For sure did not.
Yasser told the court that after the girls arrived home, he planned on taking them to dinner to have a talk. On the way to the restaurant, he said he thought someone was following him in the taxi. He got spooked and decided to change course. He said he began driving to taxi stands outside various locations in Las Colinas, looking for other taxi drivers he knew as a means of getting help. One location they went to was the strip club, The Lodge. He said he saw no other taxis there and continued. He testified that he wanted to be in a safe location if there were people really following them. Soon, he said he pulled over to a well-lit area at a nearby bus station. He told the girls they could do what they wanted with the vehicle. He assumed the person following them was a friend of the girls. He then fled from the car, leaving them behind. He ran to a nearby wooded area. He said that when he left the taxi, the girls were alive and well.
What was the plan? Were you going to meet them somewhere else, meet them at home? When you decided to leave on foot to potentially draw this threat away and leaving them with the car, when were you going to reconnect with your daughters?
At that point, I did not have a plan in mind. I went on foot, hoping that I will see one of my friends and maybe he will give me a ride, but I did not have a specific plan of what to do at that point for them also.
Was there a sense of urgency? Were you scared about the situation?
I felt close to somebody will be coming and assassinating me while I have my children with me. So yes, it was a scary situation.
Yasser said he remained on foot for the rest of the night and only learned about the killings when he made it to a Waffle House location. He heard the news of some kind of accident from customers talking in the dining room. He said he found out the details in later days. The prosecution pushed Yasser on why, if he felt threatened, he wouldn't have called 911 or stopped at the nearby club to notify the club security. Yasser said that he didn't want to bring his girls inside the club to notify security, and he conceded that he didn't call 911. He also admitted that he carried a gun with him in his taxi because some areas where he worked were dangerous. When asked why he fled for 12 years and remained in hiding, Yasser said it was because a case like this wouldn't get a fair trial. He also denied ever threatening Patricia during their marriage.
Women are protected more than men in America. There is no such a thing. I did not do it. And who would?
Women are protected more than men in America, huh? Is that what you said?
No American woman would fear calling the police if she was abused.
No American woman would what?
Fear calling the police or tell the police if she was abused.
What do you mean by that?
Laws protect women. At least she could tell her family, for example.
He said Patricia did leave him, but only twice in his memory. He denied ever being at the Omni where the girls were discovered in his taxi. He testified that he has no clue who murdered his daughters, but if the FBI had been searching for their killer instead of for him, their murderer would have been found already. In their closing arguments, the prosecutor insisted that Yasser was a controlling husband and father who killed his daughters because he was losing control of them, while the defense claimed that Sarah's 911 call was not enough evidence to blame Yasser for their deaths, and that the investigation unfairly targeted him because he was Muslim. The trial lasted 6 days, and once the jury was handed the case, it took only 3 hours for them to come to a decision.
In the state of Texas versus Yasser Abdel Said, we, the jury, unanimously find the defendant Yasser Said guilty of the offense of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
Guilty. Since the prosecution didn't seek the death penalty, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The district attorney said afterwards, quote, "There is nothing honorable about what Yasser Said did on January 1st, 2008. Dallas County has shown Mr. Said that there is no excuse for taking another human life. He must now spend the rest of his days confined to a prison cell, living under the control of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. While this verdict does not bring Sarah and Amina back, my office and this jury have done all that is in our power to see that justice is done." Yasser's legal team was not happy with the results, but accepted them and said they have plans to appeal. Patricia shared her victim impact statement after the decision was read, calling her former husband the devil.
Because of the actions that Yasser Said took, I will not get to take Amina and Sarah to get their first prom dress or go to prom. I will not be able to see Amina and Sarah graduate from high school and college. Both girls wanted to be doctors. They were very smart, intelligent, bright, loving, caring, and did not have an enemy in the world except their father, the devil, that killed them.
Patricia and Yasser's son, Islam, now 32, pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 10 years for concealing his father, a capital murder suspect, from arrest for over a decade. Yassin Said, Yasser's younger brother, was sentenced to 12 years. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. You can let me know by finding me on Twitter at CourtJunkiePod, on Instagram at CourtJunkie, or by emailing me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Law and Crime staff. If you'd like to hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, listen to regular episodes without the ads, or get access to our weekly newsletter, check out our Patreon options at courtjunkie.com/support. And please check out our sister podcast, Civil, which covers fascinating civil trials. Search for it on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.